Hi, it's Lucy here, and I've got a few ideas to share today for Christmas things. A lot of them are cards, and this one and a few others I've used the Uniquely Creative Days of December kit, and I'll link it in the description below. And I've also used the Die Cuts with a View Merry and Bright paper pad as well, which everybody loved last time too. So I'll link that name down below as well. I think you can still find it on Amazon. So these are ones that I've just created with the Uniquely Creative Days of December kit. Just some easy designs. The one on the left was very, very easy. And this I'm just showing, I made this card. I was just adding the gold. It's a Uniquely Creative Nordic Stars die. I think it might be sold out at the moment. But when I did it, with that background, the gold didn't stand out enough, so I added the white inlay, and it really didn't take very long because they were all the same size. So now I'm going to show you just one card, and I want to use those two ends because they're absolutely beautiful. And so I'm going to keep those for a later stage, and I'm going to use the part in between, and I'm going to use the other side of it, which is more of a check design there. Now, if you think you make a mess with card making sometimes, just have a little look at this. For the first time, I used these dome sponges, and I've just re-inked my iced spruce distress oxide ink. And so I was going around, I wasn't quite sure how much I wanted to put on, but the ink ended up deciding for me that it wanted to pop a lot on, and so then I kind of kept going. So I think next time I would use the brushes, but it's okay because, this ends up, looking like a right mess, but I figure it out and I make the card with it, and I think the card turned out really nice. So hopefully you'll keep watching even though you can see what sort of a crazy mess I'm getting into here. I have a lot of ideas at the end of this as well, even a little idea on what to do with your ribbons. So I hope you'll keep watching. Here I am using the brush instead. I'm still a little heavy-handed. Pattern paper is definitely my forte, and not so much inking and mixed media, but I do it sometimes. But when it turns out like this, it takes me a while to want to go back to it, even though, I do sort this card out in the end. So I'm just trying to add a little bit of extra colour because of the florals in that gorgeous paper. I wanted that red to stand out, so if I mount some of these papers on red paper, it tends to make that those flowers stand out even more. Here I've got some white glitter paper, so I'm just going to add that so that it breaks up between the two inked pages. I'm just going to have a look in my stash and see what's going to go in that little corner. I do remember that I have fussy cut out some of the papers, and because they had some beautiful florals and leaves in them, but I did cut them out with like a little 1mm border or so, white border, and so I will fussy cut them closer together because I feel like they look nicer on this card without that border, but sometimes the borders match. So I'm just going to cut a little bit more of this check piece of paper so that I can put the little red border on there. And it also helps because I've taken off a little bit of the extra inking around the edges as well. So I'm just going to mount them all on top of each other. And with the glitter paper, I find that you need more than just the double-sided tape to keep it in place for a long time. So I also use a bit of glue too, just lightly, and that way that just helps it really stick to the other piece of paper. So now I'm just sort of like roughly cutting where I want this red piece to go. And while I'm doing this, I was going to have that as a border, just a straight border for the floral paper. But when I was putting it down, I tended to put it to the side a little bit and realized that I liked more of that red showing. So I decided to change it up a little bit, and that way I have more of that red showing through. So once I decided where I liked it, instead of picking it up, I decided to just glue it straight down so that I didn't pick it up, put tape on it, and then not find the right place again that, I was happy with. So now I was just going to fussy cut closer these leaves and florals, and once all those papers are dried, I'm just going to cut around it, and then it gives a nice clean finish to it. And now I'm just making some curves on the leaves, and I've given them a crease in the center of each leaf as well, just to give them some texture and some height, and then they'll sit nicely on the card. I'll also ink them up as well and pop them in this corner part of the card, and I like how that's turning out. These sentiments are from Uniquely Creative as well. They come in a little sheet of them, and you can even buy a die that cuts them all out in one go as well. And I thought this sentiment went really nicely on the card. It's nice and long, so I could cut it in half to pop it on there as well. So now the inking doesn't quite seem so bad now that all the rest of the card is slowly coming together. So I'm just going to ink around the leaves and flowers with the ice spruce as well, so that it all matches together, and then I can pop them down with foam tape and glue. And and then once this one is finished, I'll show you lots more design ideas too. So I hope you're enjoying this video so far, and you can see that even if it looks like the inking is a right mess, it doesn't really stand out too much once you've finished the card. I thought I would keep in the whole process again this time, as I have had quite a few comments with people liking that I leave in the whole thought process behind how I create the card and how it comes together, and not just have it all set up ready to go. So I've just added some white ink there to the red, and I just think that finishes off the card nicely. And so here's some more that I've done, and this one is very similar to the one that I've just made. I've put it in the corner but in a different way, made it a slim line. And this one I've just added some extra cutouts as well. So I've done a fair bit of fussy cutting with these ones. And this one I've used, the paper shelter has some gorgeous little images, and they come pre-coloured or in black and white that you can colour them yourself. So I chose to use the pre-coloured, and the same with this one, isn't it just gorgeous? And so I just created a quick card to go with it, and did some stamping with that one as well. And now this is just a different idea that if you've got leftover lace or ribbon, you can just hot glue. I would use hot glue. I did with these. And for the top and the bottom, and just to go around it, the baubles like that. And then I've also added some of that plastic ribbon to some of them as well, and using my scissors to curl it and pop them on the Christmas tree, and they look really nice. So it's just an idea if you're looking at different ways to use up ribbons and lace and things like that. And this is another way to use up your ribbon as well. It's just like how I've done my strip cards in the past. I've done a few on my videos now, but this one I did with ribbon instead of paper. I hope you like that idea. It's just something a bit different. I made these next 4 cards by cutting the 4 sheets of patterned papers. I actually die cut them all so they had the stitching around the outside, and then I cut them in half and in half again to make the quarters, and added them to each card so they're all the same. It made it a lot quicker to create, and then I've just decorated them differently so that they have something a little unusual each rather than all being exactly the same. And with this card I just did some tearing, added some black contrast in there as well. And this one I used a Sentiment Hugs die cut, and this one's one of those strip ones again that you see fairly often of mine. I just thought I'd throw it in to show you as well. But this is part of the Merry and Bright die cuts with a view paper pad. This one is a different one, and I'd had that sitting there from last year, the papers, and I didn't know how to embellish it, so I've just added them last year, so I left it until this year, and this year I just quickly put one of those sentiments on and the star, and yeah, it made it much easier. Sometimes if you're not quite sure, it's best to leave it for a little while. So with those ones, they were all just part of the paper pack, and I just made quick and easy cards out of them. This one I made very similar to that one, but they look a little different, just embellished them a little bit differently. And then this one as well, I've added silver instead of the rose gold or gold. And yeah, that's all the cards. I hope you've got some ideas on, if you're stuck for any ideas at the moment for Christmas designs, but you can use them anytime as well. If this is the first time seeing my channel, please subscribe if you enjoyed it, and happy holidays everyone.